See the very sloppy work there with the ground wires and how close they are to the conductors? Okay, so we're going to take this apart here. Okay, so we're going to close the screws that we're not going to be using here. So here in the country I'm born in, the white goes on the silver screw, the ground goes on the green screw, and the black or the red or whatever color is live, red, black, or blue goes on the brass screw. So we're going to pigtail our ground wires together, and I bring the slack up into this box so we don't have too much jacket in the box here. And I'll bring the slack back this way, and I'll bring this slack up this way. I'll keep pulling this up, so that's where we want it, right there. And we're going to shorten this ground wire up a little bit here. So I'm going to clip this back some here. And I'll twist our new tail end to go to the green screw. It's a real shallow box, so I'm going to make this pretty short here, so when I fold this into the box, easy to put the outlet in without stress. So I'll put our wire nut on here. Okay, I'm going to put the ground down on the bottom here, and I'll keep the ground wire down here at the bottom. I'd like to get that piece of paper out of there. There we go. So I'm going to put the ground down here on the bottom. So I'm going to make this short because this is a very shallow box, and I don't want to touch the conductors with it. So now we'll take our conductors here. We're going to shorten them up so that there's not much sticking out behind them. Okay, I'm going to shorten these up so that we don't have too much copper sticking out behind them. I might take a little bit too much off this one. Okay, now I'll take a look here and make sure I have enough on each to get under the pressure plate where I want to be. Okay, we are good. We have to just maybe take a slight bit off of this black one here. Not much, just a very tiny bit. Okay, so we'll hook our ground back up to the green screw. This Phillips screwdriver is quite worthless. Okay, now we'll put our 2 white wires under the, now you can put 2. Okay, I have to take a very slight bit more off this white wire here. Okay, so here in the country I'm born in, we use white for neutral, black is live. Now this has you can put 2 wires under one pressure plate under one screw. So we're going to put our 2 white wires under the silver colored screw there. But you never put 2 wires around a screw. Okay, so I'll turn this around. I'm going to just make sure those are in. So we're going to put our blacks under the brass. Okay, I can take a little bit more off this black one here. And just take a tiny bit off the black. Okay, we'll put our blacks under the, okay, they're going to fit in there perfect. So we're going to take our pliers here because there's a little bit of a bend in this wire here, and I want it to go in the hole nice and straight. Get them under the pressure plate. You don't want to get the insulation underneath there. Now tighten the screw up. Make sure it's tight, and I'll give the 2 wires a little pull, make sure they're in. Now we'll fold these wires back into the box, keeping and I make sure the ground wire is staying down away from the terminals here. and it's going to fit in here without force. And we're not going to screw that in now because they're going to put sheetrock up. If I find the, well, here is one of the screws. I'm not going to screw it in all the way, but I'm just going to put it in part way because it's going to have to be taken off to put the sheetrock up. And I'll just put it in part way here, and when I find the other screw, I'll put that in off camera. Okay, now I've got a staple down in here. Okay, we have another outlet here that's quite a mess. Look at this sloppy work. Okay, so we'll take and look how much copper is sticking out behind there. Look at all that copper sticking out down here. Okay, so we're going to close the screws we're not going to be using here. And just make sure the ones are end up over here. Okay, so I'm gonna take our red wire, wrap it back here, and just get it out of our way. They used a lot of 14.3 where they should have used 14.2, so we have a lot of wire that we're not needing here. Yeah, I'll get a staple on both these wires where they're. Okay, so now we can I'm gonna grab a ground wire tail. Okay, I'll cut them off so they're all even here. Push our ground wires up back. And we'll keep our ground down at the bottom here. Okay, we're going to use a pressure plate connection outlet here. I stripped that with the wrong hole, so I'm going to have to cut that back and strip it with the right hole, because squeezing it with the wrong hole will weaken to the copper. Okay, so we'll put our two whites in the silver screw here. And you want to make sure we don't get the copper under the plate there. Make sure it's tight. And we'll make sure the one we're not using is tight. Okay, we'll put the bare wire around the green screw here. Get our green wire, bare wire around the green screw. We'll turn it around and we'll get our blacks on the live side here. Okay, we're going to make sure our ground wire is back away from everything. And I zigzag it and keep it down at the bottom here. Push it in the box. Now we're not going to screw this all the way down all the way because they are going to be putting sheetrock up here in a bit. Okay, we have another box here that somebody made a mess of, so we're going to bring in the slack on this one so that the jacket just comes into the box. This one we will bring down. Some will cut all this extra jacket off here we don't need. And we'll cut this ground wire here in the middle so we can... Okay, so we're gonna bring this one down so that there's not all that slack is out of the box. We have two unused wires here, so we will, we have the whites being used, but they're not using this red, so we will pull that back out of the box. They used a lot of 14.3 where they should have used 14.2, so I'm gonna pull that red wire back down out of the box. Okay, so we're okay here, and we're gonna, there's okay, now we got rid of all our mess of wires here, so we're going to get all our round wires here tailed together. And we'll make our tail to go to the ground. So we have 4 14s in there, so we're going to use a red wire nut. And we can push this back into the box now. Now we have unused wires. We don't know what they were going to go to, so we will use orange wire nuts on them. I hate these bags that I can't open, and they drop all over the floor, so I have to pick them up. We have another one. And I listen to my hip hop here. Shut it off, so I'm gonna turn it back on again. So we're gonna take the caps off these wires that we're not using here. And we'll clip them back a ways here. So just a little bit of the copper sticking through. And I'll get this little copper sticking up here, and we'll put our orange wire nuts on them, just so that they don't end up touching something that we don't want it to touch, and we have live power somewhere where we don't want it. One, two, three. Okay, so we can get all our ground wires back into the box here. Okay, we'll take our 2 white wires that are hooked up here, and we're gonna look at how they did hooking them up. So we will open this up, and they didn't do a good job hooking them together, so we're gonna redo this. Get the insulation even at the bottom, twist them together so that they're even. And clip them so they're even. I'll put a yellow wire nut back on here. I'll push this back. I'll bring the ground wire down here to the bottom. And I'll get our unused wires up here out of the way. Now, I had hooked the switch up earlier, but I just hooked it up very temporarily so that I knew which wire goes where. So I'm going to do this up permanently now. I just hooked them on there temporarily so I remember which ones go where, because they used a lot of 14.3 with a lot of unused wires. So we'll put our ground around the green screw here. then we'll come over here and get our other two done here. So the black is the common one. It's very important to strip it with the right size hole, because if you use the wrong size hole and it's a smaller size than the wire, you'll weaken the wire. Okay, I'm gonna just double check my connections over here. Okay, so now we'll push this into the box.